Earlier in the week, we spoke with human rights lawyer Steven Donziger, who faces right now up to 6 months in prison for charges stemming from his lawsuit against Chevron. That case has garnered international attention, with human rights and climate activists all calling for his release. That group includes former Democratic presidential candidate Marianne Williamson and also actress and activist Susan Sarandon. And they join us now to talk about their push for Donziger's freedom. Ladies, it's so great to see both of you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Susan, we interviewed Steven earlier in the week, but just to lay on a few of the details for people who may not have been following this case that closely, essentially this all stems from the fact that he won a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against Chevron for pollution in Ecuador that has deeply impacted indigenous people there. Chevron has come after him with everything they have, resulting in he's been in home confinement now for over 2 years for what is now a misdemeanor charge of contempt of court. He says he didn't want to turn over his cell phone and his computer because of client confidentiality. That's the trial that just now is being wrapped up. So those are some of the details of the case, but I'm curious from your perspective, Susan, what are the issues at stake here and why has this been so important for you to focus on?
Well, first of all, it just blew my mind that this was done on purpose. This, it wasn't a case of a slip or a leak or anything else. They knew that these people didn't have a voice. They decided they weren't worth the expense of having to do it the right way, so they dumped. That just was extraordinary to me. Secondly of all, it sets a precedent. If they can torture somebody the way that, and take away his, he hasn't been able to earn a living. He's been on house arrest and all these legal fees and everything. If they can send that message to other activists, journalists, that once a corporation is involved, the justice system just goes out the window, then that threatens all of us, really. It means that if you have enough money and you have enough perseverance, you can just take on an ordinary person. And he has the strength to go through this for 2 years and plus, but everybody doesn't. And I think that that's really, really important, is to understand that what's happened to the influence of corporations within our judicial system.
Marianne, what did you think of the press coverage of the trial? Do you think that this has gotten the attention that it's deserved so that people can really see the abuses that are involved?
Slowly but surely, it's getting better. There was an article in The Nation the other day. Podcast hosts such as yourself are giving it attention. But newspapers like the New York Times don't want to go there. Everything that Susan said is so profoundly true. Big oil giants, huge multinational corporations like this have thought that they just had impunity to treat people and to treat the earth however they wanted to. And how dare any of us, any human rights lawyer, any environmentalist, any activist movement for justice or for environmental responsibility, dare to question them. And that's why instead of paying the money, the money that they have spent already trying to destroy Steven Donziger is much more money than it would have cost them to just clean up that area of the Amazon, which they don't even deny that Texaco poisoned the way it did. No money yet has gone to these 30,000 farmers. And when you look at what Steven has done, as Susan said, that he's had the strength of character to go to what he did for the Ecuadorians, I think what Susan and I, and now many, many more people every day are feeling, if Steven could show up like that for the people in Ecuador, we can show up for Steven.
And Susan, what do you think is Chevron's goal here? What is the message they want to send, or what are they trying to accomplish they've destroyed Steven's life over the past 2 years.
Don't mess with us. Just do not even try. I think that's clearly the message. It's unprecedented that this kind of a sentence happens for just not turning over your computer and your phone, that they have spun it into this whole contempt of court thing. And sitting there and seeing the disdain of the judge and the patronizing attitude she had and the way she kept interrupting information. She's connected to the Federalist Society, which is funded by Chevron. The lawyer is from the firm that also handles Chevron. It was just a Chevron showcase of their strength. And it didn't even seem like a trial. I mean, it was pretty shocking to see how it was conducted under those circumstances.
Marianne, that was one of the things that Steven pointed out to us in our interview with him, is that no one has spent one single day in home confinement for a misdemeanor contempt charge. And he's been confined to his home now for more than 250 days, wearing an ankle bracelet. I mean, all of that. Faces potentially up to 6 months in prison, again, for a contempt charge, which he very much disputes, and again says that this was about client confidentiality. The U.S. government declined to put a prosecutor on the case. That's how you ended up with the prosecutor that's there, whose law firm also has financial ties to Chevron. I think part of what people will be wondering watching this is just, how does this happen, and what can they possibly do to change the outcome of the direction this is headed in right now?
Well, you're right. The U.S. justice system just took a pass on this, although the judge kept saying, while Susan and I were in the courtroom, oh, well, they just did that because they didn't have the resources. And let's look at this client privilege, attorney privilege confidentiality at this point. We're talking about environmental activists in Ecuador. So if Chevron and oil giants would do to these people what they've already done, showing complete disregard for their lives, complete disregard for their livelihood, you think these people should be considered safe to give over to Chevron their names and addresses? So he is taking not just the strong ethical and legal stance of any lawyer, and he was in the middle of making an appeal for this, but also a strong humanitarian stance. Now, you're right. Most Americans are shocked. They didn't know that a private corporation could basically take over the U.S. justice system. Nobody knew this kind of loophole even exists, and yet it does. And so when you ask what can people do now, what we need is for Merrick Garland to get involved. What we need is for people to call the Attorney General's office, to call their reps. You know, some Congress people have written a letter. Many Nobel Prize winners have spoken up. We need it to go further now. People are starting to hear about it. We need people to take action. Call Merrick Garland's office. Say that you do not want this show to be a prosecution. This show, it is a show trial. We do not want this to be a prosecution by Chevron. We want it returned to the U.S. courts. And just as Chevron has said, they have spent so much money on this already. They know that this is a red line. This has got to stop. If we let this go forward, who knows what human rights activists might think that they could get away with in front of the encroachment of U.S. corporate power. We can't let the environmental activists do this. We can't let the human rights activists do this. And their view, as they have stated it, is that they will keep on this trial until hell freezes over. And our message has got to be, so will we.
Susan, what is your message to the Biden administration on this, and have they weighed in any way on this case?
As far as I know, no. But, you know, look at Standing Rock. Nobody weighed in on that until the veterans showed up months and eyes and arms and legs later, you know. So I think that where oil is concerned, when you look at the corporate ties to all of these candidates and presidents and whatever, it's going to have to come from the bottom up, and we have to put pressure. I think even just getting this information, when people hear about this case, it's so shocking. And again, it's so important that it's clear what side you should be on. So I think the important thing that people could do, in addition to what Marianne was talking about, is also just get this information to your friends. Google, email, it's there in some private way. You can find these articles and things, not in mainstream media, but make it mainstream by passing it on. Thank you for doing what you're doing with this, because this is when we were trying to figure how could we get it so that people know. I mean, we thought of you, of course, and it's very important that you're getting the facts out there, because that's the beginning. Nothing can happen until people are lit with the fire that we have. When you see the pictures of the birth defects and the deaths and the cancer and the statistics, and this is their drinking water, their bathing water, their cooking water. I mean, it's just horrific that they thought that they could just do it and get away with it, and that should incense everyone for themselves, to protect themselves from future corporate influence. It
is an outrageous story. I interviewed Steven a while back, well more than a year ago, and I remember when I was first learning the details of the case, I just literally couldn't believe it. It really is that shocking that you think you must be missing some other side to the story. But as I've dug in, as you said, it's pretty morally clear here. Ladies, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for doing what you can to call attention to this.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you both. We'll have more Rising for you after this.